All right, so mitochondria, that's the powerhouse of your cell, right? You have glycolysis, that's where your body breaks down glucose, it liberates it for fuel, creates a couple of ATP. Then essentially you have acetyl CoA that pumps into the Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle. You're going to have that pump around. You're going to create 3 NAD and 1 FADH2 per time you go around. So it's six in about 2, 6 NADH, and then 2 FADH2, right in that area. And then those hydrogens, essentially, those are reducing agents that go into the electron transport chain, and that's where you're going to create another 33 or so ATP. And your cells are going to use ATP. It's going to use ATPase, which is an enzyme to break the ATP into ADP, and that's phosphocreatine. That's going to be used for energy in the system. That's part of it. And so your mitochondria, when it churns around and creates NADH and FADH2, it requires certain nutrients. It will use B vitamins. It will use magnesium. It will use amino acids. Of course, the acetyl-CoA that starts into the Krebs cycle, all that acetyl-CoA comes from protein, fat, and carbs. So we need good macronutrients, good healthy proteins, fats, and carbs. We need to make sure that we're not overdoing carbohydrate and overdoing junky inflammatory fats, because problem, people eat too many carbohydrates from processed grains, flours, the inflammatory nature of these foods. They're riddled with arsenic and metals and glyphosate and nasty compounds that dumps into the mitochondria, and that can junk it up. It can prevent it from moving, especially if we have toxic metals like mercury and lead, if we have pesticide residue. If we're eating too much glucose, that can create more oxidation through advanced glycation end products. That's when you essentially sugarcoat your proteins. That's going to impede the vasculature in the small arteries like your eyes. It's going to impede blood flow in your major vasculature, create inflammation, create blockages, and that is going to make your body essentially a reservoir for oxidative stress. And it's going to require more nutrients to neutralize that oxidative stress. It's going to require more vitamin A, more vitamin D, E, K, vitamin C, antioxidant support to neutralize the oxidative stress. So one of the best things you can do to enhance your mitochondria is don't overcarb it. Dial in your carbohydrates, decrease a lot of the processed flours and grains. I mean, of course, the more active you are, the more you can get away with this, right? But most people, if they're not as active, right, they're going to need less carbohydrate. They're going to need more non-starchy vegetables that's nutrient dense. That'll have magnesium. That'll have B vitamins. That'll have potassium, magnesium, vitamin C, bioflavonoids, polyphenols. So good things. Again, protein, amino acids are needed for that Krebs cycle / citric acid cycle. And then, of course, your B vitamins, your magnesium, you're going to get these from leafy greens, from vegetables, from some fruits, and from good, healthy proteins and fats. Now, supplementally, we may add in things like PQQ. We may add in things like NAD, right? Or NADH, nicotinamide adenosine dinucleotide, right? Which is essentially a B vitamin derivative, right? So essentially, NAD is a B3, right? Because you have B1 thiamine, B2 riboflavin, B3 niacin. So it's a B3 derivative that plugs into the Krebs cycle. It's a reducing compound. It's an extra electron support, so you can have and deal with oxidative stress. Things like CoQ10 that plugs into the Krebs cycle, that plugs into the electron transport chain, very important for energy. Things like creatine, things like ribose, things like B vitamins, things like folate and B12, which are going to be really important for methylation and detoxification. You have to methylate your neurotransmitters. You have to methylate there's methylation's involved in all kinds of processes in the body. That's nothing more than just attaching a carbon and 3 hydrogens. So methylation is important.